And we are live. What's up, everyone? This is your host, Camden McInnes, and today I have another awesome guest. His name is Dwayne Marino. Dwayne is an entrepreneur, 2 times best-selling author of the books Unstoppable Selling, Unstoppable Money, and soon he will be releasing his next book called Unstoppable Attitude. Dwayne is also the #1 car sales trainer in North America and is considered the best car salesman by many. He's even had a blessing from the great Joe Girard, who's considered to be the best salesperson in the entire world. Dwayne, welcome to the show.
Hey, Camden. Thanks for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your upbringing and who you are? I know that you had grown up in the same city that I actually live in now, so you're also a fellow Canadian. So it's really great because you're actually the first Canadian that I've actually had on the show.
Oh, really? Thanks, Camden. Thank you. Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit, but yeah, if you hit mute in between, I think we'll be okay. My upbringing, my parents, I had a typical blue-collar upbringing, middle class. I had a stable household. You're not going to hear a lot of stuff from me about instability or abuse or anything like that. Certainly wasn't like that. My parents were both, I wouldn't say hard on me, but they held me to high standards in 2 very different ways. My father was, my best friend, and my mom was just somebody who always wanted everything on point, done right, all the time. So, I was always athletic all the way through school, high school, university, that kind of thing. And I was the class valedictorian in grade 8. I also was the lead in the Hansel and Gretel play in grade 8 and won a lot of public speaking awards when I was younger. And then in high school, and I was sort of the big man on campus in grade school. I know it sounds sort of like silly stories, but they're formative. Everybody's got their own story. And I shut down in high school. I was kind of in shock by this 2,000 student school that I was in. I went from, like I said, big man on campus to who's this little grade 9. And I'm an introvert. I recharge alone. So if you recharge your batteries alone, you're an introvert. If you recharge your batteries around other people, you're an extrovert. I'm absolutely an introvert. So I just started to shut down. And then I got into some situations with some friends my parents didn't approve of when I was 15 or 16 years of age. And rather than leave my friends, I decided to turn my back on my family. And for a period of 6 or 7 years, I was 15 to maybe 23. I just really I shut down that side of my life. What it caused me to do, I had a whole lot of time to introspect, angry introspection, I will tell you, as a teenager. I blew off that frustration with sports and with working. So I always had 2 or 3 jobs. I became very motivated, getting better at all of those. Student to me, I was an okay student. I mean, I went to university. I graduated. I don't know how I graduated. I still have dreams this day of me not getting my diploma because I really don't remember being there. So school to me wasn't a big deal. I was studying stuff I wasn't interested in at the time, and I probably read 400 or 500 books now on the things that I am interested in. But these multiple jobs, what I learned, my father always told me, and we were still, close in our own way. But I had a lot of problems with my family for a number of years. But what he instilled in me was a number of things. But one of the things that was formative in my education through high school and university was to get a number of jobs, as many jobs as you could actually, and try to figure out what you don't like. And I absolutely did that. So that was important. And what I got to see in those different positions, even as a teenager, is how unwilling most people are to work at any job. I mean, I've worked at McDonald's, I did grocery stores, I've worked corporate life for automobile manufacturers, I've worked, car dealerships. Been involved in real estate. I've done lots of different things, but I noticed when I was 15 or 16 years of age, the whole truth today, that most people are absolutely unwilling to put in what they need to put in. And sports taught me, work ethic, attitude, dusting yourself off after a loss, and the importance of sharpening your skill set all the time. So I would say, as far as my upbringing goes, that stuff off the top of my head, still think is playing a little bit of a role in terms of how I am today.
I actually think that's really interesting because it sounds like you have a combination of a good upbringing and a natural drive. Would you say that being a successful person can, like, when you compare the two between nature versus nurture, do you think that successful people are made instead of born, or do you think it's kind of a bit of both?
I'd say there's a combination. I mean, I'm living proof that great salespeople can be created. I really look at myself as a combination of drive and a little bit of ability. If I look back to when I was younger, as far as being good with words, understanding the importance of language, for sure, those public speaking awards, but also the right message and the right messenger at the right time can make a big difference. I had about a month-long training course, which really turned me around professionally when I first really started getting into car sales and car sale training. And that for sure was nurture. The nature part, yeah, you have to have an innate drive. If the drive isn't there, there's no spark. There's never any flames you're able to make. I think that has to be something that you're either born with or is created in you due to life circumstance.
Awesome. And in your book, you actually say that you open up in your book, Unstoppable Selling, that sales is the greatest profession in the world. Why, in your opinion, would you say sales is the greatest profession in the world, and what pushed you more towards sales, specifically more towards car sales?
Okay. So let's answer the first question. The reality is, and I'm a huge people watcher, I don't care if you're watching TV, the movies, somebody at the coffee shop, Starbucks across from you, or, dialogue at the table in your family, or, a transaction with somebody. Everybody's selling somebody something. You're selling them your ideas. You're selling them what you believe in, what you don't believe in. You're selling them maybe, as far as your children go, and I've got, 2 great kids, a way of life, what to do, what not to do. And the thing about sales, it's a universal skill set. My parents had great intentions. They just lacked the skills. They didn't have any kind of formal training. My father was a machinist. My mom was a stay-at-home mom after I was born. Before that, she had a career. But they didn't have the interpersonal training, the interpersonal skills. So how they approached problems with me when I was younger, completely different than how I did it with my children. And then you take that right out to customer interactions today. Everybody's selling somebody something. It's either sell or be sold. So what side of the equation do you want to be on that? I think it's the most universal skill set. And also, probably one of the oldest professions. I mean, let's face it, they were, selling themselves. If you look at prostitution or whatever we joke about as being the oldest profession in the world, that's sales. And I imagine even going back a few thousand years ago when that started, some of them were making more money than others because they knew how to present themselves properly, or they had a pitch, or that they had something about their offering which was more attractive than somebody else.
Yeah, that's very true. And I actually find it very interesting because I actually started a sales job. I started doing cold calling, and then I started doing some door-to-door sales, and I started to see almost immediately the transferable skills and the benefits of it. And
Yeah.
One of the many things, like I too am an introvert, and one of the many things is that it's helped me do was learn to adapt and I guess like learn to speak and interact with people when I kind of don't feel like it. What was the greatest challenge you had when you first started, and how did you overcome and adapt to that challenge?
Okay, and I answer that. I'm going to roll back a second, because you asked me about my thing in automotive and why I want to go to that. Is I don't know who's listening and where you are in your career, and I don't ever want to impress anybody with myself. I think there's a lot of successful people out there. I hope some of you out there are more successful and wealthier or whatever, or happier than I am. But we all have a path in life, and the reason why I do these is because I can relate to a lot of people that are on their paths in different areas. So going back to why car sales, I started changing oil when I was 16. That's really where my automotive thing started. I've never left the car business since then. I'm a little bit older than 16 right now, but it was just that. And one thing I learned was the best way to get your next job is to be awesome at the job you've got. And whatever I was doing, I always tried to apply myself and learn and grow in that position as much as I could until I either got headhunted or until somebody sent me so many of their friends and family, that I couldn't keep up because they were so happy with my service, I got referrals. Or, maybe I get promotions. But the best way to get whatever job you want in life is to, be awesome at the job you've got. And opportunities in that field, besides training, still come to me. I'm faced right now with a challenge or a decision of going in 2 different directions right now, which won't cause me to walk away from my training business, but I've got somebody soliciting me for some other stuff that I may end up doing, which may change a whole different dynamic in my own career. But if I go back, it all started for me changing when I was 16, and I've done everything pretty much since then in the automotive realm. The greatest challenge for me was I started really developing myself out of the desire to avoid personal pain rather than experience any kind of personal and professional gain. I had my fiance, actually, when I was in university, my fiance, my wife, got cancer. She had to drop out of university. And I did too, my last year, to take her for cancer treatments and all this kind of stuff. In that same time period, and all of this I'm going to give you right now happened within about 24 months. My best friend and best man died from a brain aneurysm suddenly. Didn't even know he had that, obviously, with aneurysms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I had a business partner at a landscaping business that was doing very well. You know, and I also was working at a dealership at that time called Forest City Chrysler. I had lots of things I was doing. But this landscaping business, my business partner died from lung cancer. I got fired from another job that I had, completely unrelated to anything that I did, but it really, you know, hit my self-esteem. And then I had something happen in a personal level here I will never talk about in public that destroyed a lot of relationships in my family. So in the midst of all this, I had every support mechanism that I had around me gone. I hadn't graduated from school yet. I was trying to get my diploma on the side, and an opportunity came up for me to do some extensive travel. And that extensive travel was in the training business. And in the travels that I went through, I ended up the time away was tremendous for me as far as, you know, psychological healing. Through the boredom at night, I started reading a lot of self-help books, realizing I needed that. And then obviously, when you get involved with people that are mentors that are successful, they start showing you other ways of thinking, other ways of living, other ways of selling. And I'm a bit of an obsessive person. If I am into something, if I think it's going to benefit me, I don't drink the Kool-Aid. I do a direct injection. I put it with an IV. And I started doing that when I was about 24 years old. And it's never stopped. It's never stopped for me. So that's sort of how I came to be into the, you know, the field that I'm in right now. So the challenge for me was overcoming my own personal obstacles. It wasn't even on the professional side, quite frankly. You know, things have to get better for you. Often things have to change about you, and it was the changes about myself that I did and that I currently do that I think is the most interesting thing. Is just, you know, if I see somebody else doing something, I ask myself, hey, they've got 2 legs, 2 arms, you know, a couple of ears, a mouth, whatever else. Why can't I do it? So I'm very much inspired by other people that go ahead of me. They don't have to be better than me in, you know, any way, shape, or form, but doing things I'm not doing, because I kind of go, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's often how I start pursuing different things in my life.
Wow, that's really intense, dude. At like during that tough period, was there like a time that you felt like you wanted to give up?
There's 2 times in my life where I've contemplated. I mean, actually, you can tell the method that I was thinking of using. Driving my car into a bridge, you know, abutment down a highway 2 different times, and or doing drugs. I've never done either one, thank God. And that was that one period in my early 20s. I was lost. I was so frustrated. I really could not see the end of my tunnel. And the other one, believe it or not, just happened a few years ago. My father passed away. And it's funny you asked that question, because today would have been my father's birthday. He would have turned, how old would he have been?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my dad would have been 86, 87, 86, I think, this year. And it's today. So in commemoration of my dad, I'm glad we're doing the podcast. He meant a lot to me. When my father passed away, there was a bunch of other things that happened in my life and with relationships with my family that, anyways, it was, I had the second, my second time around of, you know, contemplating either one of those things. It was pretty bad, but, you know, I always know things, if you stick in there and you give it a little bit of time and you start working on yourself, it'll get better. It's much better. And to put a bow on that for you, Camden, and anybody else listening, I am a much better person since all that stuff happened in my early 20s. They're actually on my gratitude list now. And now that I'm a few years past that stuff with my father, there's a whole bunch of things that have happened to me in really great ways as far as my understanding of the world and spirituality, you know, kinds of things I didn't have before. I'm not going to say I'm grateful my dad's not here, but if he's listening in, he knows it. People that are closest to me know it. I've grown in so many ways since my father passed away. I'm a better person than I was in 2011 or, you know, 2012 before he passed away. So it's very true that sometimes, you know, life hands you a box of shit, and you got to go searching for the diamonds and the gold, and sooner or later it's going to come out. But when you're in the middle of it, you can never think about being grateful for this stuff. But hopefully, you know, it doesn't kill you. It will make you stronger.
Yeah, that actually brings me to my next point. First off, I want to say, yeah, that's pretty intense. And, you know, from watching your content, and I know you have your book coming out about attitude.
Yeah.
And it seems like you developed this over the time, just this huge spirit of being able to just overcome certain things. Like you said, you had those 2 periods in your life where you felt like you really wanted to just give up and do these certain things, and you never did. Where a lot of people actually do end up following through with those, you know, bad ideas that end up being very destructive in the long term, and, you know, in many cases permanent. And I know that I've struggled with many things, and I continue to do so. When someone is feeling like they're stuck and feeling like they hit the wall, what are some of the right steps a person should take to begin changing their life and reaching their goals?
Okay. Well, there's a lot of things you need to do. I think in terms of getting myself out of any situation, logic should come into bear. I'm very much a process-driven person. I think sometimes too much, but two things that I do every single day that really have helped me in all those situations. I didn't have these tools in my early 20s. Definitely helped me with my last episode, or whatever you want to call it. Is you've got to look in your future and set some goals, and set them in many areas, because sometimes you just can't set goals in one area. So I've got financial goals. If you were to read my written goals right now that I look at every morning for 5 minutes or so, out of about 15 or 20 goals, only 2 are financial. I have skills goals. I have goals regarding my hobbies, how I want to live as a person, how I want to be. I've got physical health goals. I've got goals related to my debt. I've got goals related to other people and organizations, and come with. So by diversifying your goal list, hopefully you can find something in that diverse list that goes, you know what, I can't handle any of this right now, but I think I can go after that one thing. And when you start to get better at that one thing, you start forgetting about everything else. And that is a great thing to kind of get your head out of whatever problems are bothering you for 5 or 10 minutes, because that becomes easier and easier and easier to develop that muscle. Then as you start making progress on that goal, I don't care what that goal is, on whatever that goal is, it could be just getting up 5 minutes earlier, you start to realize that you are in control. You start forgetting about all this stuff that's causing you stress that you're not in control of. It develops momentum, and then it's easier for you to hit the next one. And the other big piece, which I, again, do every day for about 5 minutes, is to be grateful. It's usually little things that we forget about that one day you're going to wish you had right now. The ability to walk upright, the sounds of the birds, you're taking a deep breath and everything's still working in your body maybe. You might have a certain situation financially or relationships, or go back to those lessons like I had in my life that were hard, and be grateful for the fact that you at least made it through that and you pulled out of those things, as a better person, or you learned some lessons. So the twin pillars of goals and gratitude. Goals are positive projections. You're looking into your future, trying to find something better that you can attach to and move towards. And gratitudes are positive reflections. You look at your life like a garden and you bypass the weeds. You stop looking at the weeds. You actually start looking for the flowers a little more. And by looking into those positive reflections, it changes your biochemistry is what it does. The cortisol shuts down, which is the stress hormone. Your endorphins start to go up. You start breathing different. Your posture is naturally different because you're feeling better. So goals and gratitudes to me are a big piece of that, along with physical activity, quite honestly. I exercise. I do something every day most days. I find my nervous system really enjoys that. So does my mind. I've never turned to harmful substances or whatever else some people get into. But for me, physicality has always been a big part of managing stress and keeping my momentum up and my mojo up and make myself, stay motivated for all the people I've got to stay motivated for that I'm coaching.
So I see you have daily habits and rituals, and from what it sounds like, you read your goals and certain things like that. I wanted to ask you, do you add meditation in with your routine?
I do 2 forms of meditation now every day. One is called TM. It's transcendental meditation, and it's a relaxation meditation. It's about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, depending how you're feeling. I'll do it at lunch hour. I'll do it before work. I'll do it after work. There's some days I do it twice when I'm really on a crazy schedule, and that has helped me enormously. I actually learned about that through YouTube, watching Jerry Seinfeld talk about the merits of it. And 2 weeks later, on another YouTube video, Arnold Schwarzenegger is. So I'm going, okay, I've heard about this. It's time to check it out. Transcendental meditation has been tremendous. You can find a coach. I can actually help anybody with that if they wanted to a little bit, but that's been huge. And I do another meditation, which is where I cultivate and analyze about 35 or 40 different principles and aspects of my life that I want to work on every day. And that's a way more analytical left brain meditation, but it serves a purpose of sort of distracting yourself from your surroundings and resetting your compass. If you're out in the field walking around or someplace, that compass has to work properly. That's my compass. I go over those principles every single day. And all of that and a lot more is going to be in the book Unstoppable Attitude. I never teach something I've never done or don't pretty much currently do or can't do. I don't want to be a hypocrite in my own delivery of material. So anything that I talk about, I'm talking about from experience and from learning or discovering myself.
Well, I actually have to thank you for that, because on the internet these days, it's very hard to tell, especially with the online digital entrepreneur niche. There's a lot of people that just reselling packets courses they bought from other people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to go back into the sales. When you walk into a car dealership and you see like a fresh young batch or older a batch of salespeople, what are some of the most common challenges you see new salespeople struggle with most?
Generally speaking, there's three, any professional salesperson in a dealership or any place else: their work ethic, their habits, which are their skill sets and what they do every day, and then their attitude. So those are three different things that you can develop and you can talk about. If you look at a salesperson, I often say defining moments for a salesperson is what they're actually doing when they're not with the customer. It's a defining moment for an athlete. I've got a very athletic background. I'm still pretty athletic. My kids have both gotten soccer scholarships, full rides, and that's still very much a big part of my life is athleticism. The sign of an athlete, a true athlete, is not what they do during the game or the practice. It's what they're doing in the off season. It's what they're doing in between games, because that's really where you develop yourself and where you keep your mind and your body sharp for your next opportunity. So work ethic, habits, attitude. It's the downtime that kills salespeople, because if I'm not speaking or training most days, doing things like this or in front of a group of 5 or 500 people, my brain starts to get dull. And salespeople don't like downtime. There's a lot of self-doubt happens there. A lot of things start replaying, often not the good situations. So they've got to learn how to keep themselves busy and productive in their downtime. That's the number one thing I find separates the average from the outstanding.
So to make it a lifestyle and not just something that you do during the week.
That is very true. It is absolutely a lifestyle. Yeah, I'm always reading something. I mean, I've read, like I said, 400 or 500 books now on the arts of fulfillment, the sciences of achievement, and sales. I continue to watch YouTube videos, your podcast, Cant, and stuff like this. You want to stay sharp. You want to see what's going out there. That is always keeping the mental gears turning, so you're ready for your next opportunity, and so you're growing. The markets and the way people buy and sell things have shifted so much in the last 5 years. I can't wait to see what's going to be like in the next 5. And for people that don't self-study and self-educate, it's a scary situation, because you certainly can't rely on your institutions to do that. There's even outright censorship now going on the internet. So you got to even use multiple search engines for things. You got to use Bing and Yahoo and Google and YouTube, because things are sometimes being memory holed or suppressed. And I look at this stuff as opportunities for people that are sharp, that want to deal with the way the world is and not the way it's supposed to be, to further get ahead. Because the average person, I hate to say it, wants somebody else to do it for them. They're over trusting. They're naive. I don't know, mentally lazy. So your defining moments are when you're by yourself and between clients. Absolutely, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's very true. I can't remember what the exact numbers. I think it's like the average CEO reads like 50 books or something like that a year, and I try to at least bang out at least 2 books a month. But the majority of the people that I used to hang out with, because I've actually changed my circle a lot, like I only hang out with like salespeople or people that are into self-development or whatever. But like growing up, a lot of my friends would maybe read 1 book, and it was like maybe something that was assigned in like university or high school or whatever. And just with the world and automation and all of the things that are starting to happen, like for the people who aren't prepared, it's going to be a really shitty situation. And they're going to be the first ones to complain when there's less opportunity for them. But in reality, they did it to themselves, because, life is like adapt or die type of situation.
For sure. And you just mentioned, excuse me, you just mentioned something else really important is your tribe. I didn't have a tribe that wanted the same things I had. Like, God bless my family. They didn't want the same life I had, either financially or just lifestyle. So what I had to do, and I know I had my legs swept off learning anything at a young age, and I'm an introvert anyway, so my reaction was to go alone. But I had to purposely not expose myself. And I love all my friends. I'm not saying this is not a judgmental thing, because people want different things. I'd isolate myself, and my tribe became my audio courses and my books and my workshops I were attending and the students I was coaching and the mentors that were teaching me. That became my tribe, because your mindset is greatly affected by the people around you. I mean, I don't know where they get these studies, but apparently our net worth and our attitude is sort of an average of our 5 closest people. So yeah, back to the lifestyle thing, you sometimes have to make some hardcore decisions on who you're going to hang around with or spend your time with, because if you're either moving towards your goals or you're moving away from them, you can't stay still, because the world is always moving.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually had a friend recently, really good guy, love him, but I had a conversation with him on the phone, and he's in a really negative attitude, and he's like kind of putting down what I was doing, and I still love the guy. We've
Hmm.
hashed it out since, but I had to like not call him for like a week after that because it just
Yeah.
like because I'm like so busy and like I'm so focused and stuff like that. And then I just saw that that one conversation completely affected my performance for like 3 or 4 days. And I was like, yeah, I gotta take a break from that dude because I can't be having like of course that's going to happen throughout life.
Yeah.
There's going to be things like that, and you kind of have to adapt and deal with it. But if I can choose to kind of distance myself away from that when and really like during really important peaks of performance, that's kind of what I have to do. So we are good now. I spoke to him about it. You know, he was in a bad mood and stuff like that, but I basically had to say like, look, dude, I'm dealing with some really high level things right now that I'm trying to accomplish, and like I just cannot afford to have people who I consider close to me coming in and kind of like making things harder than what it needs to be. Like obviously I know life isn't sunshine and rainbows and stuff like that, but it's really important like what you said to kind of make sure that your tribe is very, you know, on like the same like the same
Yeah.
mindset as you are.
And what tends to happen too as you progress in your career, whatever your goals are. I mean, if you want to, feed 1 million people or make $1 million, it doesn't much matter. You're going to meet different people along the way, and you actually, in a lot of cases, are changing tribes while you're moving along your life path, or as you're, achieving your goals, because you know people associate with people that are like them, and for some reason, I don't know if it's jealousy or what it is. I've never gotten jealous. I always tell people, don't be jealous, get curious. If somebody's doing better than me in any regard, and there's so many people that do so much better than me in so many ways. I've never gotten jealous. I get curious. I'm like, okay, so how do they do this? And okay, can I do that? And if I was to do that, what else would I do? And I try to imagine myself, and I don't need to do it if I don't want to. But that's part of the whole thing. Also with your tribe is it's one of the many challenges that happen is you change your goals, as you change yourself. Unfortunately, you might have 3, 4, 5, 10 different tribes, I guess, over a period of a lifetime now. But that's important. All the way through that, hopefully you've got good intentions and you want to help everybody along the way as much as you can. You're never hurting anybody, but sometimes you just have to disassociate and reassociate. That's just the way that it is.
Awesome. And I want to talk about the elephant in the room, the stereotype of car/used car salesman.
Yeah.
Why do you think a lot of car salesmen or salespeople in general get such a bad rap, especially since sales is what every business needs and sales is a skill everyone should learn?
Okay, I think there's a number of reasons. I first off think it happens based on statistics, which I'll go through right now in a second, but also on an individual basis, it has to do with who you've encountered. So we're all a reflection of our own experiences. But if you sort of picture a pyramid in your mind, the average salesperson in any organization, which is more than half of most sales organizations, they're one of sort of three categories. They're either somebody who's fairly new that doesn't have a client base, has to rely on fresh traffic or fresh opportunities given to them by the company or somehow that they're creating themselves, and maybe even not a lot of training. Then you have sort of a complacent, average performer, good people, nothing wrong with them in any way, shape, or form, but just not that driven. Maybe their house is paid off, or their spouse has a great job, or they're not that motivated. And then the other third of the majority of sales organizations, not just car dealerships, is somebody with a bit of a skeptical, negative attitude that maybe wish they did something else. That bottom bracket in a car dealership is who you're generally talking to when you walk into the dealership. So you're getting somebody who's either complacent or maybe a little negative, or somebody who's brand new. Your best experience is probably going to be the brand new person if they've got a great attitude, even without training. So you've got statistically not a great odd in your favor as a consumer walking in a dealership, because you're going to probably encounter one of those. And then above them, in terms of performance, you've got somebody who performs really well. It's got a lot of repeats and referrals, but is still aggressively taking fresh traffic. If you get lucky enough to bump into that person, that's probably 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 6 people in most dealerships. That person is going to give you an outstanding experience every time because they're top of their game. And I always tell people in my business, that's who you want to model and mentor. Then you've got the top snack bracket of any business, the car business included. These are people that probably have an assistant or should have an assistant. They've worked their way up through the sales ranks. They work only by appointment. They only take repeats and referrals. You pretty much have to be referred into them as you would be referred into a doctor's office. those people are never going to be meeting or wanting to talk to a fresh opportunity walking in or emailing or phoning a store. They're just too busy. So just statistically, if you look at that makeup, you don't really have a really high odd that when you walk in a dealership, you're going to get a great experience. And that's always been the case. That will always be the case, because that's a psychology issue. That's just got to do with the dynamics of the sales floor. The other side of it, we absolutely get picked on in the media. If I look at what happens in so many other industries, and I'm not going to mention them, well, you know what, I'm going to mention them here. If we look at my phone bill, which I can never understand, and the way those charges go, and if you phone them, they'll always pull them back. And even grocery store ticker tapes, if you add them up, you'll find they often don't add up to what you're paying for your groceries. It's always a little bit higher. And airlines, if you're continually checking for a flight from the same IP address, they move your prices up. This is all known. It's been studied. I don't see those industries getting a hard time like they do car salespeople. So they like to pick on us. It's also one of the sort of answer this long question in a long way, but it's obviously the niche of business that I'm an expert in, I guess, is car business. Unlike any other business, you're involved in not just selling something, you're buying something back for that consumer. And people are always insulted with what you're going to give them for that thing they've been driving. So imagine if you went to Best Buy or Circuit City or Future Shop or whatever it is, and you're buying a home stereo system, a home surround sound system, whatever it is, or a big screen TV or a washer and dryer. And part of that is you physically hauling in your old washer and dryer to see what he would give you for it. And then you got to physically haul it back out when you're not happy. And the thing that you paid $2,000 for is now worth $89. That whole emotional dynamic leaves a bad taste in anybody's mouth. And that is the car business. You are bringing in something that has got some usage on it. It is just a piece of equipment, even though you've been riding around in it. People are never happy with that part of it. And that's I think another big part for the distaste.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, especially with the media. I've ever since I was a kid, whenever I'd see an image of a car salesperson on TV, he was like a really pushy dude. And then after, when the car was like driven off the lot, the family would be driving it home, and there'd be like a hubcap or something falling off it on the way home.
Yeah. And that stuff does happen. There's no doubt, and that happens in any industry, however. And we tend to romanticize that in movies, and I love watching those movies personally, because I can relate to a lot of the scenarios you see, but it's certainly not an average experience that people get when they go to a dealership. Most times, between competition and legislation and regulation, the experience is really quite good. Those things I gave you earlier from a performance standpoint, that's more got to do with how the salesperson approaches the career than the actual career itself.
Okay. I wanted to play a quick game with you, and here's a chance for you to show off some of your sales skills. I'm going to throw 3 objections your way,
okay,
and you give your best rebuttals as quick as you can, okay?
Yep.
Ready?
Yeah.
So the first one is, I'm not interested.
Okay, would you know somebody that might be?
That's simple, eh?
That's where I would go. And that's going to open up a conversation of either a yes or a no or a name. And through that little bit of a conversation that you may get, you might be able to build enough rapport to track backwards and say, Camden, I know you mentioned a couple of seconds ago that you kind of were sitting on the fence. You weren't too sure about what was going on here. If you had to pick one thing of what we're talking about, what would be the one thing in what we're going through right now interests you even a little bit? And from there, you try to open up a little bit of a wedge in a conversation and keep digging. So sometimes, addressing the objection through a sort of unrelated change of focus, it buys you time to swing back around when maybe the person's, nervous system has calmed down a little bit, or whatever just kind of triggered them is no longer bothering them. That's often what happens with objections. It's just a blurt out. It's just something, say it's like a complaint or a reflex. You let that go, you come back, and things could be a lot better.
Awesome. Okay, so the next one is, I can't afford that.
Okay, now something like an automotive transaction, there's several components. So if it was a car deal, I'd say, okay, so Camden, looking at the numbers in front of you, let's kind of rank them. I mean, which one is working for you, which one isn't? Which part of this proposal do you think is sitting right with you? Which part of it is the worst aspect? Which one is kind of churning your stomach? And from there, we're going to isolate, if it's down payment or term or monthly payment or biweekly payments now, or leasing, or if it's price or the trade value. I'm going to try to start working with the numbers and pinpointing what part of it is kind of working and not working, and then work towards reformulating that proposal, or maybe even looking at another product. So I would just dig into those numbers a little bit further.
Awesome. Okay, next one is, I need to talk it over with my wife or husband.
Okay, this is a common one. This is one that, and all of these could be excuses, or they could be used as negotiation tactics, or they could be valid. So who knows? But with this one, I often tell salespeople that as soon as this comes out during the conversation, and it can go in a bunch of different ways. There's a series of questions I like. So the first one, I just say it very lightly and very nicely. It actually works really well. It builds a lot of reports, bit of a joke. I'd say, Camden, do they actually know you're in here looking at cars today? And you get a little bit of a chuckle. They go, yes, no, maybe so, doesn't matter. It's my car. Oh yeah, they just told me to come down here and pick out a color, whatever else. So they actually know you're in here looking at cars today. And depending on how that goes, the second question often is, do you think you might be able to make this a surprise? That gets more funny reactions. I couldn't, she'd kill me, or he'd kill me, or it's no surprise. We got to do something here by Saturday. Or, hey, it's my car. It doesn't much matter. So you think it'll make it a surprise. And then depending where that goes, then my next question, I often talk about water falling down. You have to have 2 or 3 different backups to keep digging into an objection. My third question is, so what part, where in this process do you see they have to be involved next or the most? Is it during selection? Is it during pricing, during paperwork? Or do you think you just might want to show it off to them after you pick it up? Or are they just going to come in on delivery? So that's sort of where I dig there. And then you decide, do you book an appointment? Do you take the product to them? Do you maybe call them on a speakerphone? Or do you, do it subject to their approval? So it's always, usually questions are the answer when it comes to objections.
Oh, those are awesome. Okay, yeah, because I'll definitely put those in the bank for my own experience.
You'll get those in Doortodoor as well.
Yeah, that's actually why I asked those, because
yeah. I did Doortodoor. I did Doortodoor myself for not quite some time, but well over a year with the landscaping business. I understand that quite a bit. So if you can walk up door to door, you can pretty much walk up anywhere when it comes to sales.
All right, so your second book is called Unstoppable Money, a little book about big money. And money is a really important topic, yet many people refuse to talk about it. In your opinion, why is money such a taboo topic when it comes, just when it comes to our society? And it's a very important area of our lives, but yet people feel like it's, I guess, unpolitically correct to talk about.
I think it goes into your deep-rooted or deep-seated belief systems and how you were brought up. And there's so many different cliches around money. People that don't have money, people that do have money. We judge people based on that. Nobody ever wants to really need it, but if you don't have it, life sucks. I can tell you, it gives you options. You can't help your church or charity or foundation of choice if you're broke. So it doesn't have to be all about you if that morally or ethically doesn't work for you. But I think it crosses so many different cultural, ethnic, educational, racial, sexual, professional lines that people, when they start to talk about it, based on an image they have of somebody that's done well or not done well, they start categorizing people inadvertently. I don't even think it's done on purpose. And I know exactly what you're saying there, Camden. In my sales classes, often there's a component we just conversationally get into. What does the average Joseph and Josephine do to get themselves ahead? And as soon as I go into that topic, I start talking basically about the mechanics of, making money and keeping your money. I can see almost, a third of the room starts to tune out. Some people are pretty neutral. Some people dial right in. But it's unfortunately a taboo topic for a lot of people. If you're working your whole life, you should be brought up, and I wasn't, on how to balance a checkbook, the importance of money. Valuing money. And those cultures, and there are cultures that do, if you take a look at around the world, they do a lot better financially than the other cultures that do not. There is absolutely a difference globally on how people value, their personal credit, how they value cash flow, how they value assets, what they consider to be an asset, what's a liability. And you can see cultural trends on that. That's unfortunately, it is still taboo to a lot of people. It's not to me anymore. I brought my kids up, hopefully understanding this stuff pretty well. And I wrote that book to help people that want to see it just a common, simple way for the average person to digest, the working person to digest, how they can get ahead in life financially.
Yeah, it's actually very awesome how you brought up the difference in cultures, because I feel maybe in our society here in North America, we've been so used to kind of being very comfortable with how things are. Like even the standard of living for the very poor isn't even comparable to the standard of living for the poor in many other cultures. And I'm not exactly sure if this was an exact study, but I heard someone say that when you're an immigrant to America or North America, you're 10 times more likely to become a millionaire.
can tell you for sure from traveling Europe so much, even a little bit in South America, great places to visit. Go try to find a job. Go try to have them hire somebody that's not from their tribe. Really, truly, like, good luck to you. You have to make it on your own, self-made sales. That's how it happens here anyways most of the time. Entrepreneurs are basically salespeople. But as far as employment opportunities, I know I've got lots of family in Europe. That's absolutely true. It really is who you know. And if you're an immigrant, the question is, like, who do you know? It's tough. Yeah, you're right. A lot of opportunities here, though.
Okay. And what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people making when it comes to making and handling their money?
One, I'm going to put it right onto one point. It's not what you make, it's what you do with it. There's so many examples of that. The average lottery winner and professional athlete, they make millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. Within a few years, they're flat broke. We're talking the majority of them, like 3/4 of them or more. And yet there's a great story about, I think, a UPS driver a few years ago that passed away in the United States. I don't think he ever made more than $40,000 a year. And he left, I think, $14 million to his church. It truly is what you do with it. It's not what you make. So many people slug it out. They get stuck in the busyness of their business. I want to call the word is not slaves, but they're so busy doing the 9 to 5. And I do a 9 to 9. I mean, I'll do a 9 to midnight. I'm not talking about hours that people are working, but they don't step back and actually say, okay, great, the cash is coming in now, whatever that means, $20,000 or $200,000 or $2 million a year. But what am I doing with it? And to go one step further on that, I've met a lot of very, well-off people when I'm selling them cars over the years. And one question I've always asked them after I kind of feel the rapport level is right is I say, hey, you've done a great job here. And I don't need to know nickels and dimes or how you've done it. And my first question often is, so mind if I ask you what your parents did? And I do this at the right time. It never comes off weird. It's never blown up in my face. And if I hear their parents were well off, then my next question is, hey, then you got to know that most second or third generation families, that generation loses the wealth that the parents created. So you've obviously kept it or grown it. How have you done that? And if I hear the question to, what did your parents do? And they go, my parents live with me. My parents are broke. My parents don't have any money, whatever it is. Then my next question is always, so how did you make it? And here's what I found. And I can't get into it right here, but my book talks about it in a lot more detail. Very well-off people that have the money, generationally, they're absolutely using certain banking products that are very secure, that are, they're getting an annuity or a certain percentage every year, but that capital is protected or it's growing at a moderate rate or a slow rate, but they're just living off the cash flow. So it's protected in a financial institution. The people that made it, and those are the people I was always worried about or listening to, because I don't come from that. I don't have, $50 million to lock up in some annuity and live off the cash flow. I wasn't brought up with $50 to, have that happen. So my always question was I was paying attention to is how do these people make their money? I never heard one of those people tell me a banking product of any type. 401ks, I never heard a GIC, I never heard an RSP, and I never heard anything like that. Bonds, never. I've heard that. What I always heard from them was either sales and or a small business or a business they started. They're both sales. So let's call it sales because business people are salespeople if they're going to be successful. And then from there, they started to get into property. And what type of property, how much property, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to tell you to look around your friends and family, and you tell me if that pattern is not holding true for the people they're doing well. So that's what I've modeled myself after. I believe in, following success and what works. And eventually, everybody that's listening, if you're like me and you're, creating it yourself, get any kind of property. I don't care if it's raw land. I don't care if it's one single house that you're renting. Because once you do one transaction and you understand it, and you get a bit of an equity position or it's paid off or paid down that the person's renting it from you, we're talking income property, you're now in a position to start leveraging that and literally printing money. And in my book, and I don't want to make it a commercial for my books here, but Unstoppable Money, I talk about how to buy property with no cash, no outlay. I just closed on my first East Coast property. Actually, it was this week, as a matter of fact, on Monday. I'm already working on my second one. I've got a partner out there. Yeah, I've got a partner out there that's helping with that as far as finding properties. I'm out on the East Coast, but we both understand the formula well, and now we're going to replicate it out there. So it's either information or execution. You either don't know what to do, which means you need training. You need somebody to mentor. You got to find what to do, or you know what to do and you're choosing not to do it, which is me in both cases. In a lot of cases, I realize I don't know things that a lot of people other do, and that's fine. And then if I decide that I want to get that in my life and educate myself and now I understand it, Now I have a choice to execute. But you have no choice in execution if you're lacking the information. And anybody you're learning from, as long as they believe and love what they do and it's in good intentions and they're doing it themselves, go to whatever workshop or whatever class you can attend or whatever you want, but it's information or execution. And that's for everything: your health, money, relationships, sales. I don't care what it is. You can put that into any category you want.
Phenomenal. And for those of you that are listening, I'm going to leave a link to Dwayne's books, Dwayne's Facebook, and Dwayne's YouTube channel as well. You're putting on some really awesome knowledge here. I want to go into our closing questions, and these are more personal questions I like to ask the guests that are not necessarily related completely to what we're talking about, but just a little bit. It just covers a little bit more of a deeper area, just for people to kind of see where your mind state's at.
Mm-hmm.
And the first question is, who are two of your role models you looked up to in life, and why?
One was my father. So he was always my role model growing up. My dad, back in Europe, he was from northern Italy. That part of Italy took a real physical beating during World War II. He grew up running from bombs, and you imagine the stories I heard regarding that. He actually had a piece of a grenade in his calf right until the day he died. He was like 8 years old, running from a bomb. And he had to leave at 14 years of age by himself. He lost his best person in his world was his brother Alfredo. His whole family, got decimated, and they lost also physically. That part of his country was taken over by the communists. It was part of the war settlement. So they lost all their property. His father's little barber business, 14 years of age. He's in refugee camps for 3 years and ends up here when he's 17. So his whole life story to me was very motivating. I always thought if my dad could do that, I should be able to at least, do as well as him or a little bit better. And we're also very close. And, hey, I love my father. He was absolutely a role model for me. My next biggest role model actually was Tony Robbins. I happened to pick up one of his books. It was called Awaken the Giant Within. Right around that period, it is described when I was going through all kinds of stuff. It was actually the very first self-help book I ever read, and I've read a lot of them since. And probably because of the situation I was in personally and professionally, I needed it so badly. I was like a person in a desert, dying of thirst, and I had finally some information that I could see was going to work for me quite a bit. And he was my role model in terms of turning myself around, recreating myself, and in terms of my deep study of psychology. We're touching on it a little bit here, but to me, pretty much everything stems from psychology, practical psychology in a lot of different ways here, your language, body language, what you think. So he absolutely, and I've met him. I've met his son, Jarek. I've been to every course that Tony Robbins offers. I'm not doing a commercial for him. I've seen a lot of other people as well, but my father and him would definitely be my two most, they'd be my role models that I'm thinking of right now, no doubt.
Awesome. And just for some feedback, I'm actually getting a Facebook message from a listener named Felixs, and he's saying it's an awesome live stream.
Oh, great. Awesome. Thank you.
So and Felixs might be asking a question. I don't want to keep you too long. I'm just waiting to see if he'll send it. But the next question is, what would you do if you only had 1 day left to live?
I would take my smartphone. I would go to a beach. I would take off as much clothing as possible in terms of whatever the surroundings allowed me to do. And I would phone every single person I care about. I'm almost getting teary-eyed thinking about that. And every single person that has helped me in all the fucking shit situations that I've been in that never turned their back on me. I've been very fortunate with some key people in my life that helped me through everything. And then I would phone all of my, my greatest teachers and mentors that helped me learn through the years how to obtain whatever small level of success that I've had. That would be my last day. There's no doubt about it.
Awesome. And Felixs just sent his question. What are some up-to-date resources for new salesmen?
Okay. I'm going to obviously put in a commercial for myself.
Go for it.
Yeah, Unstoppable Selling, to me, I've had many people read that book and give me feedback on it. It is a tremendous book about sales psychology and sales process. Inspired by Joe Girard, who's a friend of mine. I'm the only person that has a relationship with him and actually done work with him, the greatest salesperson in history, but with a heavy injection of social media, smartphones, today's psychology. So I would absolutely suggest you do buy my book. As far as other sales books go, the one that always comes to mind, it's not really a sales book, is probably the first self-help book ever written, is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. It is a tremendous template or blueprint from which everything else comes off of. And outside of that, I would tell everybody to educate themselves on neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. NLP is the foundation psychology for all sports psychology, all the marketing commercials you see on TV, all the best sales material I've ever seen out there. If you look at it from an NLP perspective, it fits all the criteria of understanding language and body language, how people process information. So in terms of pointing you in general directions, that's where I would send you.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually just recently stumbled upon NLP. I've been told I should look into it, and I actually just started studying it on my spare time. Very interesting stuff.
And let me give you one more insight. If we're wrapping up here, I've got one more thing I'd say for just a second.
Oh yeah, go for it.
As a salesperson, or I guess as a human being, you've got two or three avenues from which you've got to build your foundation. You've got physical vitality, you've got sort of your mental state, and you've got your emotional state. Those are three different things. So when you're setting goals, when you're taking classes, when you're watching stuff online, and when you're living your life, I'm advising everybody, and it's what I do, without some certain level of vitality or physical health. And if you're going through anything with health issues, my heart goes out to everybody that's listening. I understand there's absolutely some things you can't control for sure. But a lot of cases in life, even things that look like you can't control it, you might be able to make your situation a little or a lot better. But if you're in any physical health, and I'm saying this with all respect, because I don't want to hurt or offend anybody that maybe is going through some stuff, because we all go through stuff. But I would make your day-to-day base your physical vitality. When that goes, your mental and emotional state are very, very hard to maintain. That's your foundation. And I would look at those three pillars, those three buckets as three separate things, and study them and master them and have daily habits. And I've got lots of them, daily habits that support those three areas.
Awesome. Yeah, I even find that when I'm not eating as well or sleeping as well, that I just can't perform. So yeah, I can only imagine if someone has a serious health condition, how much it could really eat at their performance.
Yeah, no doubt.
So the next question is, how do you want to be remembered after you die?
I want to be, and it's on my mission statement, I want to be remembered as somebody that left everybody and everything just a little bit better than when they found them. That's pretty much it. And it was a big drive for me to write those books. And I certainly don't think this is going to happen, but you do wonder, if I get hit by a bus or something. I've got a fair bit of information in my cranium that I wanted to get out in the public permanently. So it was, paying it forward, I guess, and also paying it back to people that have helped me. My 3 books are a big part of my legacy, as well as my videos. I've got 3,000, videos that we stream online for all kinds of different aspects of people's lives. And obviously lots of stuff on YouTube and social media, but I want to leave everybody everything a little better than the way that I came across them.
Awesome. Well, that's what things like this podcast is for, to help get your message out there. The next question is, what's the key to being unstoppable in life?
Wow. Keep rising the prize. And that prize could be just getting up out of bed in the morning. That prize could be, improving your workout routine. That prize could be, to make sure if you're fired from a job, you never have to fucking rely on those asshole bosses again. I'm going to say that with emotion, because that was one of my major drives. I worked for 2 people. I worked for 2 guys that were absolutely emotionally abusive, and they created a spark in me to such a situation. I knew in my early 20s that I never wanted to rely on people like that again. So keep rising the prize, whatever that is. Maybe you do things to be somebody's hero. It could be your children or your parents, or your wife or your husband, or maybe it's somebody that works with you. You want to sort of in the back of their head have them look up to you in 5 years, but always be moving forward. Or if somebody that loves to win, you're going after those targets because you like the endorphin rush of winning. I'm somebody, actually, I like to win. I hate losing. So I often will goal set on things I'm trying to avoid. I don't want to have to slide backwards in a certain way, or I don't want to be sick, or I don't want to, lose my money or lose this. Whatever it is, you're either running from something and running hard away from something, and that still is to me keep my eyes on my prize. I don't want to go backwards or fall into a situation I know some people do sometimes, or moving forward.
Phenomenal. And what's next for you, Dwayne, and where can people find your work?
Okay, what's next for me? I get asked that a lot. Stay tuned, because you might see a big shift actually happening with me here in the next couple of years. You may not. So what's next for me? I want to keep the short term, keep growing my business, helping more people, getting my trainers out in front of people, streaming my stuff online. I can hit anybody on the internet. The world is your oyster, as they say, with that kind of stuff. And as far as you get a hold of me, you can do a few things. If you go on Facebook, my name is Dwayne E.N. That's my personal one, Dwayne E.N. Marino, or you can go Dwayne Marino, which is sort of the public side of it. You can find me on YouTube under the same names, Dwayne Marino, or Dwayne E.N. Marino, and also through typically Twitter and social media. I had my Twitter account. This is just kind of a sidebar. My Twitter account was hacked 2 years ago. We had 10,000 followers, 6,000 posts, and we're in the process of rebuilding that. So if you look at my very first tweet on our current Twitter account, you'll see that's happened. You can still see the old account up that somebody went and stole all our followers and did whatever the hell they do. I don't know why people do that, but yeah, just follow me on social media, or when you hit my website, DwayneMarino.com, you can email us or phone us or whatever works for you.
Awesome, Dwayne. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. And for those of you who are listening, I will leave a link to all of Dwayne's social media channels, as well as links to his books below. So you guys can find those in the description. Dwayne, thank you so much and have a great day. Thanks,
Camden. And anybody's listening, your energy flows where your focus goes. Make it happen. Thanks, Camden. I really appreciate the opportunity to help you out with your people here.
Stay in touch.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
How many sales a month do you or your sales team miss because of ineffective skills, stale habits, or bad attitudes? What if you had a secret way to make up just half of those lost sales per month every month? MarinoTV is your secret. It's the #1 online sales training program in the automotive industry, dedicated to building attitudes and skills that result in unstoppable results. Our virtual distance learning is designed specifically to help sales managers, sales professionals, F&I managers, and service advisors increase their production, as MarinoTV offers over 3,000 video sales training chapters for all levels of skill. Let MarinoTV show you step-by-step how to deal with today's educated and transaction-ready buyer in person, on the phone, over live video, or by email. If you're ready to have your sales soar and your stress drop, call 1-888-735-6275 or visit DwayneMarino.com, or buy our books, Unstoppable Attitude, Unstoppable Selling, and Unstoppable Money on Amazon now.